This example is looking at a comparison of the maximum temperature to the number of cones that are sold at an ice cream cone shop. The owner wants to predict the number of ice cream cones she will sell each day, and she thinks there's a relationship between the daily maximum temperature and the number of cones sold each day. So she records her data for 2 weeks and creates the scatter plot. Let's describe this relation first of all. So if I look at the points that I have there, they do have an upward or positive trend, and they do follow a linear pattern. I could take a ruler and place it on my graph and kind of figure out where the trend or the pattern or where the line might go. I want to try and put it through as many points as possible, but at the same time I want to keep as many points above the line as I do below the line. So that will be what we're going to do for part B. So I'll describe the relationship here, and then I'll try and draw a line of best fit. Now, as I said, to me this does look more linear than it does non-linear or a curve. So I will do my best to try and draw a line with my finger on my iPad here, but I would recommend that you use a ruler or the side of your binder or something to help you draw a straight line for this one. When you're doing this, you want to go through as many points as possible, but try and keep the same number of points above and below the line while you're doing that. And I'm just taking a few attempts here, and that is not my, I'm not super proud of what I've just drawn here. However, I don't have a ruler. Let me maybe try one more time. Oh, that was really bad. I don't think you can see all my attempts that I'm taking here, but I'm doing a whole bunch, and I really wish I could do this with a ruler on my iPad here, but I just haven't figured out a way to do that. All right, so I'll go with what I've got for creating my line of best fit. We're going to use the line of best fit to predict how many cones might be sold if the maximum temperature for the day is going to be around 30 degrees. Now, one thing I want you to know about lines of best fit, they do not have to go through the origin. Some students think it has to go through the 0 point. It does not, so don't feel like it has to. In this case, it probably wouldn't if I were using my ruler here. All right, temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. I'm going to look at where that is on my graph. Maximum temperature here is 30 degrees. And again, what I would do is use my ruler and draw a line upwards on the 30-degree mark, which I have not quite gotten. I'm doing my best here that I can. I'm going to go hit my line of best fit, and then where it attaches to my line of best fit, I'm then going to go across on the vertical, and it looks like it's hitting right about there on my vertical, and I just need to figure out what my scale is here. 140, this would be 150. Every 2 blocks looks like it's worth 10, so every block is worth 5, I believe, here. So this is 170. That's almost 175. I would say maybe 174 as a possibility there. So about 174 would be what I would guess as my prediction based on my line of best fit. Now, if your line of best fit didn't line up quite like that, that's okay. You're going to line it up with what you have drawn as your line of best fit. Now, why is the maximum temperature on the horizontal axis of the graph and the cone sold is on the vertical axis of the graph? What you need to know here is we have 2 variables. One is called the independent variable and one is called the dependent variable. And when we're working with this, your dependent variable is the one that goes on your vertical axis. Dependent variable goes on the vertical axis, and your horizontal axis gets the independent variable. All right, so your horizontal axis gets the independent variable. Now, when we're talking about independent and dependent variables, it is what it just says. The independent variable is independent of what the other variable's value is. The dependent variable's value depends on the independent variable's value. So in this case, it makes more sense to say that the number of cones sold is dependent on the maximum temperature that day, making the number of cones sold the dependent variable and the maximum temperature being independent. That makes more sense than saying the temperature depends on the number of cones sold. That doesn't make sense at all. So that's why we graph them on the axis that we graph them on. So we'll be talking more about independent and dependent variables as time goes on and we work further with scatter plots. But key ideas today are remembering or making sure you understand how to read values from a graph, deciding if there's an upward or positive trend, whether there's a downward or negative trend, starting to look and see, is there a linear trend versus a curved trend? And then we will talk more about this independent and dependent variable stuff.